to the Political Matrix News. I'm here with my partner for, God dang, 20, 30 years. How long? I don't know how long we've done that.
28, 30, something like that.
Yeah. Running campaigns and just being in the back on the backstage view of politics in Florida and frankly nationwide for decades.
Yeah, I'm Greg Fink, and I think we started working against each other. Yeah, I mean, you kept on thinking I was a guy who did all the nasty stuff because there was some nasty stuff being done in that campaign.
No,
maybe he didn't, but the candidate's mother did. And she
sure
said
did.
I was like the bad person of the
the
crew, and I was just new at it. I was just a baby. I was just a virgin.
Well, the stuff that she was complaining about back then, I don't know that you'd had the wherewithal to do to begin with.
Well, actually, I did. I have the wherewithal to do it, but we did inspire part of it, but not all of it. But the person who actually, I think, did do it was an idiot. He was a moron.
Yeah, it was a dumb move because I think it helped her win the race, honestly.
It did. It blew up in our face badly, and I don't think he's alive anymore. I think his name was Red Farrington. He was a construction developer. And he was actually a state rep in Florida, Tallahassee, back in the 70s, along with Lois Benson. We're talking about Holly Benson, Lois Benson. Holly Benson was a wonderful state rep who ended up serving out her entire term, and she did a great job as a state rep in the South in Pensacola. I was working with her opponent. You were working with Holly. I was working with the opponent, Ed Anderson, who ended up being a we can't find him. Can't find with Social Security number even to look at under.
These
con artist candidates, and there's con artist candidates all over Florida. But today we have the election.
Everywhere.
Oh, they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere
in every state, and I think we see that with all the wonderful fraud that we see and all the fundraising through all the different payment platforms. Which I want to take a little statement on Act Blue. Somebody did communicate that Act Blue is just a payment platform, although it is coincidentally a payment platform that gives a lot of sequential numbers, a lot of sequential digits and data. Although, we actually might be able to start an idea and get our own Act Blue account and just see what happens. And if it doesn't happen to us, how come we're not just as lucky as anybody else? Because basically, I think you just hang your shingle up on Act Blue. You just done it. You raise money just for not existing.
Well, look. I know what the people that are in damage control mode are telling you, but the fact that all of the lawyers and all the leadership of Act Blue left within a week of each other, kind of suggests that there is some fire there.
There might be some fire there. I mean, we don't really. I mean, I do know Win Red ran very well. That's the Republican version of the Act Blue is Win Red, and Win Red, is ran very well. It's very organized. It's very honest and open and ethical. And they're not pulling back the money and donating to campaigns. They're not an activist group. They're literally just like a PayPal. I mean, that's literally just exactly kind of like what they are.
And I think that's a little bit that's a little bit of what the issue is with Act Blue is they're not just a payment platform. They do other things, and part of it is, I think, improper funnels and a lack of data verification.
Right.
So they can't swear that they know where all this money is coming from because they deliberately are taking steps to make sure they don't collect enough information, which is also a violation.
That's very true. And although, I mean, the Act Blue accounts I have seen, it looks like they collect the information, but then whenever they give the report does not kick out everything consistently on the reports. But that's just some of the stuff that I'm not an Act Blue professional, nor am I a Democrat fundraising professional working, and 98% of our campaigns are on the Republican side. And so pretty much the only Democrats we worked for were the ones who were against Mike Gates. And so that being said, they weren't against Mike Gates. We worked on the other side. So, that being said, I mean, it's today's election day, and it looks like the Republicans won, and everybody's so worried about, the Republicans losing some of these seats and the House becoming even more thinner margin for Mike Johnson here to work with. But looks like he has a pretty good margin. I mean, Randy Fine won very well. Petronas won 55%, which is a little bit lower than we expected, but it's still a good win. I will give Gay Bellamont, who actually is a friend of mine, who I will give her credit for getting over 40% and doing a very hard fought campaign. And but it's a very tough district for a Democrat to win in. And Clyde, I mean, Jimmy Petronas also is a good friend of ours, and it's actually a relative, I think, of yours or a distant relative.
He's not a relative, but he's done a lot of really good things for our family.
And Jimmy has done a great job. The only, I think, the biggest problem that both Randy Fine had in District 6 of Florida and Petronas had in District 1 was neither one of them were really from the district totally. I mean, they weren't really, thoroughbreds in the district, and that was the one cautionary tale I think Republicans should look at is that if you want your 80-20 blowout, which they both should have been 80-20 blowouts, you need to have a local guy carry the torch for the party to do that, in my opinion. Because I think that did hurt Jimmy just a little bit, not being from. I think it's hard to say he hurt him at all with 55%, but it did negate from him getting a higher turnout because the overall turnout was just a low period. It was around 27.5% turnout at this stage right now. They're still voting, they're still counting, so it might get up to 30% by the end of the day. But just I mean, it was a low turnout for a special election.
Well, honestly, I think it's a normal. Well, I mean, it's a special election. I mean, people, especially after the third, it's like the third special election. It's not just one.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think most of the turnouts were around 33 to 34% for most of the special elections. And it might get that high. It might get up to 33%. And so,
we'll see.
mean, we'll see. I mean, then again, we are Florida. We're not California. We're not going to count the votes for 3 or 4 months. I think after like midnight, all the votes will be counted. We'll have that many dead bodies voting in the Panhandle. I don't think. Well, we are going to be investigating that though with our wonderful pack here of Florida True. We will be taking a look at a lot of the voter turnouts here over this next year, and seeing we actually I did not get to tell you we have some news on Alachua County today. Alachua County had 1,020 vote by mail ballots that were basically just pushed through by the elections office, although they were deemed not valid according to the vendor who does it on a standard practice. And so they basically wanted these people to vote, and majority of them looks like voted. And they
so wait. Well, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is that these people requested a ballot and then voted, but when they returned the ballot, there was some defect in there, like the address was wrong or something was wrong, and then.
No, actually, that's a little bit backwards. Let me explain it the proper way. I'm going to explain it backwards. Whenever you request a vote by mail ballot in Florida, you have to supply your driver's license number and the last 4 of your social security number. And whenever you request a VBM. And so in order to request it, in order to get it in the mail, you have to supply that to the elections office to get it. And so these people had not done that. They did not have the last 4 of their social, nor did they have their driver's license number. And so usually the vendor who handles this on a regular basis will put that in a null category because they're null, because they did not fill out all their proper information in order to vote. However, the Alachua County people have so much free time. They have so much available free time because they're not doing anything at all, because they're not really busy government workers. In fact, they probably should be eliminated by DOJ. They went through and they actually looked at all the voter ID numbers and they cross-referenced all the names and addresses of all 1,020 of those ballots and pushed them through and made sure they had their opportunity to vote, because they felt compelled that everybody should be able to vote. Now, it's not their job to do that, and there's a Florida statute that says you cannot do that. And they're in violation of the Florida statute to do that. I don't have the statute on top of my head with me. I can bring it up in the next show. But there's a statute that says that if they do not have the information on the vote by mail request, then they cannot receive a ballot, and the county and the elections office cannot fill it out for them.
Well, it just kind of seems to me that the reason that they have that rule is because is for the same reason that a bank requires you to present ID, and the same, or at the ATM you have to put in your code, because otherwise they got no way of knowing who's requesting what. I mean, to talk to AT&T about my mama's cell phone, I got to go through all kind of backflips to verify that I'm the one on her account, and that's just for her cell phone account. That has nothing to do with voting. So I mean, it's what you're talking about is not a trivial thing.
No. And so right now we're in the process of requesting, through Florida's true, we're in the process of requesting all the data, all the raw data of those 1,020 ballots or requests, vote by mail requests. And we're going to see if they will provide that to us. Now, in the past, they did not provide. Florida True is technically an ECO, not a PAC, which is a PAC or an ECO. Right. And so basically, they're saying that an ECO is not the equivalent of a PAC, which all the paperwork and all the everything else is. And so they're trying to give us trouble on not giving us that request. And so they're saying that that they can see it, but we can't see it because we have to be a different kind of entity for them to see it, or for them to show it to us. For a vote by mail data, it's specialized data. It's special. I mean, we all know it's specialized data. It's the data that they fraudulently put through. Okay, I mean,
yeah, that's the most ridiculous thing.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it is entirely. It's entirely bullshit. I don't know why they, how they get away with these sorts of things. But I think finally, we're getting some help from the federal government to kind of start pushing this stuff away.
Exactly.
Start resolving these issues and saying that you can't just make shit like this up. You just can't.
No. I mean, because the only way to do this is to get the raw data from the machines. And basically, we need to do a real audit, a real live audit of who, I mean, all 163,000 or all 174,000 voters are in Alachua County. Yeah, it might take a little bit of work, but it's just like the census. They do the same thing with the census, and we need to do the same type of thing with verifying that all these voters are real. Because right now we have a lot of voters who think that they're in one party, but they're in another party. They're wondering how come they can't vote in a primary, but they can vote in this primary, and they're not supposed to be able to vote in that primary because they're a different party. And I mean, and some of them, they have no idea that they live in different parts of the county than what the elections office has them in, and they have no idea why the election office never updated their information. I mean, we have so many screwed up things, and just this one Alachua County issue, and we're starting to see it now propagate in Hillsborough County is one area where we've already seen a lot of this in this past year. A lot of the voter fraud has been convicted in Hillsborough and Pinellas County, and so and those are huge counties compared to Alachua. They're like 3 or 4 times the size. Yeah, Alachua has more people doing it, and so I mean, we have to really look at the numbers here and see what's going on, and that's one thing we're going to be doing over the next several months here. And so, I also ran into the people. We had a protest this last weekend, a Tesla protest, and we'll be showing photos and everything else. We'll be scrolling while we're talking about this because I got pushed into the road, and now my back is finally starting to hurt after getting hit by a sidecar mirror. Now, granted, I might have been instigating them. After looking at the video, I probably should have been like, telling them that they're wrong. That, you can't, Elon is not a bad guy.
Wait a minute. Did they tell you that you were wrong?
No, they kept on calling me names. They kept on making fun of my genital size and my overall weight size. And they said I sound like a retard. And they said they hated retarded people. And they're very, very hateful toward any kind of person with a disability or any kind of a handicap. They're very hateful toward that. And I made sure that they were hateful on camera But here you see a lot of pictures. There's nothing positive on their side. It's like Elon has swastika and swastika cars, and everything's about hate. Everything's about deporting and killing. Now on the Republican side, it's all about love. It's all about
Well,
love, baby.
yeah, but at the end of the day, I hate to keep going back to this, but it's not about being right. It's not being correct. It's not about fixing anything. It's not fundraising, and 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 that's the people that create these narratives. That's all they care about. You would be shocked. The Act Blue you were just talking about. The money from Act Blue goes to pay these people to do this
Exactly.
kind of thing.
Yeah, these people were getting paid.
Yeah, I mean they're not. I mean there'll be a handful of free protesters there, but they're not going to have these things. They don't organize this well, this fast, on this broad of a geographic scale to all happen on the same day.
Right.
And there not be someone up there pulling the strings. There's not just some independent commission of concerned citizens that are worried about Elon Musk and him accidentally finding out how much money the government is stealing.
Well, how this protest started was it was actually started by the Republican Party. They were actually doing a protest for support of Tesla. And so we've been advertising it, and the Alachua County Republican Committee have been advertising it for about a week or two. And so they've been ginning it up that they were going to be there to support Tesla and to support Elon and to support Donald Trump. And then, the Republicans had around 180 people on their side.
Okay. And what does that got to do with the rest of the protests across the
country? That's what I
country?
say, is that none of them were getting paid, and none of it was, none of it was, nobody was on the payroll. They're all there, just organized and everything else, and they're for all different factions. In fact, a lot of them weren't even Republicans. A lot of them were libertarians. A lot of them were MPAs, and they were all there just and showing support. And then the other guys were obviously very organized because a lot of their signs were identical. And a lot of their signs were, I mean, if you actually look at TV and watch the other protests, you'll see the exact same sign at this protest because it's all on the payroll.
Frankly, it's hard for the national media to keep this video straight because you can't tell by the signs that they're all the same people.
Exactly.
But they are.
Yeah. And it's all the same narrative and everything else. And the Republicans were actually kind of boring, on the narrative. I mean, it was very strong support, but it's also very happy. There wasn't really much hate. There's nobody wanted to push anybody in the road like they pushed me in the road. Nobody was trying to fight with anybody. Nobody was trying to say go to hell or anything. Nobody was attacking anybody. There's no signs about deporting anybody or killing anybody. The Democrats were all about killing, deporting, running them out of town. Everything. Everybody's a Nazi. Everybody's a hater. I mean, it was all negative, hateful energy. Period.
Well, you think about it. This is how you have to behave. If you want to create the socialist utopia these guys are talking about, you have to be willing to take things from people, and these are the people to do it.
Takers.
And
those are the type of people who I definitely can see can manipulate the votes at the elections office, because a few of the people there look like they have worked in the elections office before or worked on campaigns before. And this is me allegedly saying this, but I have zero fear at all knowing that the Democrats would have any problem at all with changing around the votes to win the election.
Oh, look, I will happily say these things bluntly to their face. Please sue me. Because when you sue me, now I have recourse and I get subpoena power.
Yeah.
And I can say, and I can start subpoenaing records like that.
Exactly.
Regardless, I mean, they don't have the supervisors of elections office doesn't have to be a party to the suit to be obligated to be responsive to a subpoena.
Exactly. I mean, and they were looking at this on a global scale of what's happening to Tesla, what's happening to Elon. And I mean, you and I talked about this last week. I mean, Elon's numbers are still going up. His stock prices are still going up. People are waiting to. There's actually more notoriety about the car now, and the stuff that they're doing with the setting up bombs in different showrooms and this big 450-pound guy driving his four-wheeler into the side of a Tesla, and now they're following people and stalking people and just random people, and that's starting to happen this week. And a lot of them are liberals who are being stalked by other liberals, and they want to know how come liberals are attacking liberals. It doesn't make any sense. Oh yeah,
This is
it's
this is
stupidity.
almost this is almost as smart as shooting the president.
Yeah,
Almost.
which is horrifying. I mean, and nobody's even talking about that anymore. People are still. It's like they think it was a hoax.
Well, what they think is that it doesn't support their position, so they don't talk about it. They know that it's damaging to their position, so they don't want to talk about it. The only people who want to talk about it is Republicans, and we're outraged. They're not out. The reason they're not outraged is they're disappointed it didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, and then we saw today, or not today, I guess a couple of days ago, about the Doge report. You sent me a clip about how these Social Security numbers, when they're looking at Social Security with the Doge, it started out with just a few thousand that were wrong. Then when you spread it out to 2024, it's like 2.1 million people were on there getting Social Security, and they were getting money. I mean, and they were, in fact, I forgot to tell you this. My mom is still getting letters for Social Security in Humana. She's still getting notes. My mom passed away 6 years ago, and they don't have any record of her dying. Humana doesn't. And Medicaid is wondering why she's not responding, and they want her to respond immediately. I had to call Medicaid today and say my mom has been dead now for 6 years. Catch up, guys.
I'm sure they're going to demand proof.
Yes, they did ask for proof. I said, because they've been sending her flyers for the new Humana programs and everything else, and they got 2.5 million or 2.1 million people still on there in 2024. How many of them were like over a certain age?
Like 120, 150. I mean, but to me, I mean, and that's bad. That's just the people in Social Security who were at one time supposed to be getting checks, but now, I mean, they're dead, so we're not giving them checks anymore. As bad and maybe worse than that is the clear evidence that the Biden administration was deliberately rigged the Social Security system so that these illegal immigrants, I mean, people that were caught at the border, they directed the border patrol to have to basically give these people an administrative case instead of a criminal case. Yep. And because it was an administrative case, they were able to take allow them to apply to work, and then allow them to also get a Social Security number. Once you and they have thousands of those people with Social Security numbers that also wound up voting, and now those people have been referred to prosecution. They've thousands that voted, and even more that registered to vote but didn't vote. So the two big questions that begs is, one, who told these guys they could vote, and two, who registered these people to vote to begin with, obviously knowing that they weren't qualified.
Exactly, and that's where we were talking about E-Verify coming in. And how come people are not using E-Verify to look at voters? Now, you and I are both working on getting the E-Verify program set up with our company here, to where we can start checking on voters randomly, randomized lists, and see how many of these students. Because one thing that we see in a lot of college towns, like Leon County in Florida, because where we're specifically talking about is Florida. So we're looking at Leon County and Alachua County and Miami-Dade County. A lot of the people here who are 18 and 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old are coming in, and they've already had a voter ID, but did they really, or did they just get it whenever they registered to vote, whenever they got their license, their driver's license? And it was like the motor voter deal. And so, I mean, the whole idea here is that really, just because you have a driver's license does not mean you're a citizen. I mean, there are a lot of people with driver's licenses that are not citizens. However, they are getting voter IDs, although they're not citizens. And they're transferring as students, although they're not citizens. And then they're voting. not being citizens. And so, I mean, a lot of this has to do, we have to look at student visas and how many of these people are really, we have to take a really deep dive into it. Yeah, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work, but that's how you have a really good country that's built on the way it's supposed to be built, by having only the correct people voting that need to be voting. And I mean, the illegals are coming over, they're getting these checks, they're getting Social Security, they're getting Social Security numbers, they're getting paychecks, they're getting free housing, they're getting free food, they're getting free education, and it's cutting into other programs greatly.
Well, what was very telling to me was, and let's put the graph up. There's a graph that talks about all this stuff, and if you see here, what it does is they increase year by year during the entire Biden administration. Every year, there's twice as many people for the first 3 years that are getting these illegitimate Social Security numbers as the year before. I mean, it went up to 5 million people. And so, it's clear that the reason they're bringing these people in is so that they can register them to vote and try to affect the election. It's when you see it in front of you like this, you just can't you just can't see really anything else. There's clear intent to do something else.
Right.
And the reason these numbers kept going up is because it was well known that they weren't doing the criminal prosecutions anymore, and that once you got here, you'd be able to get a Social Security number. When you tell people those two things, then they believe it's on.
Yeah, well,
and they came here, and the results were predictable.
And the big problem I'm having, though, is a lot of people, this inside baseball just goes way over their head. And a lot of people don't understand that that budgets all the way down to the lowest level, the municipality level, to the county level, to the state level, and all the way to the federal, are all decided upon how many people reside in certain parts and certain zip codes. And those residencies are all dictated by data. And that data is dictated by people being registered or registered out there, or being documented. And so if you have people who are undocumented, they're overwhelming a system, and the system doesn't know they're documented, then it's going to screw up the healthcare issues, the educational issues, the transportational issues. And then that's where the whole voter issue comes in. People don't realize the voter, they think, oh, it's just voting. Who cares? It's not. It's about budgeting. It's about money they're stealing from
you. Right. They think, well, they live here, they should have a say.
Exactly.
That's the talk. Well, the thing is that they're supposed to be temporary residents. That's why that's what blew my mind about them being on the census at all.
Yeah.
Because the court case, when during Trump's first term, when he tried to exclude them from the census, the narrative was the Constitution didn't say that they had to be residents here, but it didn't say they could be visitors either. I mean, we don't come through and count tourists, and these guys, by definition, are temporary residents. They are not supposed to be counted as permanent residents because their status here is entirely in flux.
I mean, and also the majority of them are spending money back home. They're not even keeping the revenue that they make here in the States, which is fine. I mean, I'm all about supporting the family. That's great. I mean, no trouble with that.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even a good for them or bad for them kind of thing. It's an entirely irrelevant. I don't care if they're snorting every penny up their nose. It's it's the fact that it's a way of gaming the system.
Yeah.
The founders certainly would have never agreed with, and it's not fair to other states.
No.
All you states that don't have that don't have the funding that you're looking at, well, you need to look no further than California and all of these other states that talk about sanctuary status, because those people are moving people in to steal your money.
Exactly.
The more people they move in, the less money you have, and eventually they steal your representation too.
Exactly. I mean, people don't even know it goes all the way down to the roads. And you being in development, you know this. I mean, the thickness of the asphalt is based on how many cars are riding on it every day. Everything else,
Well, the capacity of the road.
The capacity of the road, exactly. And so, I mean, basically, if it's a high capacity road, it's going to be a much more, thoroughly built.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean, probably a better way of connecting it to people is to just simply say that the more people that live in your county, the more money you get from your state. The more people that live in your state, the more money you get from the federal government.
Right.
I mean, it is that simple.
And that's
and
why
when people can pack all these non-citizens in here that aren't going to vote anyway,
exactly.
or if they do vote, they're going to vote for the Democrats. Then then it's easy to understand why they would try to do these things. People that aren't really in contact with the system like we are just hear these things, they sound outlandish, and they think, oh, that's not true. These guys are just trying to ruffle up a bunch of stuff. It's not.
Right.
It is, the more you learn about the system, the more easy it is to believe that this is the sort of thing that happens.
And now, and real quick to switch topics. So tomorrow is the Tariff Day or Liberation Day, according to Trump. I don't think it's going to be too much of a Liberation Day. In fact, I'm very glad the Tariff Day happened the day after the vote of today because because the stock market might take a blow. You never know. But it'll come back. The stock market's probably going to take a blow for 24 hours, 48 hours, and everybody should just realize that and know it. It's going to come back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, the stock market goes up, it goes down.
It's resilient.
It knows what it's going to do.
But it's probably going to drop 1,000 points probably the next 48 hours, most likely. They'll probably gain.
I don't know if it will or not.
It might or might not. But I mean, what do you think if he actually? Because nobody really knows yet, which is kind of funny. Nobody still knows the whole tariff strategy yet. That's going to be unveiled tomorrow. Is he going to be doing the 25%? Is he going to be doing the reciprocal tariffs, or is he going to be doing a mix of both, or a hybrid, or what?
Good question.
We don't know. And that single TV show, there's a lot of pontification and people saying, hey, he's going to destroy everything. It's going to be all the world. It's going to end. Chicken Little. But
yeah, they say a lot.
We're going to make it through it. Now, granted, our prices might go up. They're going to go back down again. Prices go up, prices go down. I do know eggs are going down, which is I'm happy about because I'm a big egg eater.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how much they're going to go up. I doubt they're going to come down very much. I know they're not going to come down as much as they go up. But
very true.
In my opinion, we're going to wind up having savings in other places. We're going to wind up having more, more money available for higher salaries.
Right.
So when I responded to a post a while back. They were talking about how you don't understand how tariffs make prices go up, and while that may or may not be true, there's probably a little bit to that.
I understand.
They will make it go up. Having the manufacturing happening here keeps the money here, which gives us more money to pay those higher prices.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, American products do cost more because we pay our workers more than $1 a day. And
actually, it is that, but also there's a lot higher regulation.
Exactly. You have higher regulations. You have cleaner, better standards. The product is actually a better product, and the workers are actually paid well. And then the prices go into the workers' pay, which trickles down. And a little trickle down economics here from Ronald Reagan. It trickles down to your economy and to your local economy of where the workers live at. And so that's the reason why it might be harder for you to buy something, but it's going to be helping out the people who work in a manufacturing location of that product.
Well, I know they mocked Reagan for years for that trickle down economics thing, but the fact of the matter is, it's a hell of a lot better than what the Democrats put forward.
Yeah, I mean the other idea is is a multiplier, the whole the multiplier syndrome, or what do they call it? I want to cut this part out because that sounds stupid. Anyway, but the whole idea here is that whenever you spend money on the economy and you're investing in the local community, it trickles down to all the other systems and all the other facets of the services.
Well, the fact that we're having the things manufactured here, the fact that we're that auto manufacturers, foreign auto manufacturers, have already already spinning up in the process of spinning up foundries to make the metal here.
Right.
So now we're going to be making the raw materials here. We're going to be doing everything here, and it's just better.
It's kind of do you have they make aluminum? And the majority of aluminum is made by energy.
Well, I mean,
yeah. So
yeah. I
a
mean,
lot of people don't know that, and so a lot of people just think it just comes out, or they have no idea how aluminum is made. And so
it's made out of sand.
Exactly. And so I mean, and majority of, you ask that question to an average man on the street, they'll have no freaking idea. The majority of the cost of aluminum is in making it is in your energy, and basically that's renewing, investing in energy here in America, and because I mean basically the amount of energy it takes for one aluminum factory is about the same amount of energy for like one small city.
Well,
And so
the process for making aluminum is very electricity
driven.
dependent
Exactly.
because what they do is they melt the aluminum oxide ore with electric furnaces.
Right. And us bringing all that back to America, so depending on Canada and all the other countries that we're depending on right now, I think is great. I mean, it's good to have a high tariff on that.
Yeah, honestly, these countries that are doing all these reciprocal tariffs and stuff like that, I'm thrilled. I'm happy because people keep, the Democrats keep trying to get us to take our eye off the ball, which is not, how much does, a waffle iron cost at Walmart? It's where the hell was that waffle iron made?
Exactly. I mean, my question is, we have a good little bit of audience here in Europe. How many Fords and Chevys and are driving around in France and England at this moment, and Deutschland and in Liechtenstein and Germany? I mean, how many cars over there from a Ford area or the Chevrolet Cavaliers or
Well,
Escalades?
American cars are the highest tariff product we have almost. And and it's ridiculous. Honestly, it's the only reason. All these Mercedes plants and stuff like that we
Yeah.
have here. The only reason that we have them is because we changed the import law so that if it was 51% made in America, they
Right.
didn't have to pay the import duty. That's the only reason.
Exactly.
So if you think that Trump's strategy isn't going to work, tell me why we have Nissan factories here. Why do we have Kia factories here? Why do
Hyundai
we have Hyundai and Mercedes?
and Honda
They're
now
not here.
and Nissan.
They're only here because we changed the import laws so that it was economically preferential for them to do it.
Exactly.
And what Trump is doing with these other tariffs is going to have the exact same effect.
But I mean, I'm talking about on the consumer side. On the consumer side, we are actually very good here in America at buying everything. And where the other European countries and Asian countries are very good at just buying their products. They're not very good at buying the American vehicles
Well,
or bringing the American
yeah.
vehicles over there to be sold.
No, I know, but I mean, we basically have spent the entire, the last 50 or 60 years, exporting every job that we have in the name of the cheaper toaster. You know, we can buy a blender for $35 and we can buy a blender for $35 now, just like we could in 1970. But in 1970, that was a lot of money.
Exactly. It's not a lot of money now. Well,
it's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. But the thing is in 1970, you could get a minimum wage job and then go get yourself an apartment and live by yourself. Now, it'd be a crappy apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a trailer, but you could do it. Try doing it now.
Exactly. Yeah, housing. Yeah, I mean, I have to move to a different town now, like an hour or so east of here, just to get a decent house that's around 3,000 square feet to take care of our family and everything else. And it's going to be on the beach, and it's going to be basically $1,000 less than my little landlocked town here in Gainesville, Florida. Because it's ridiculous. Housing is just going out of control in Florida, in California. Georgia housing is going through the roof. It's just, and even the smaller states that don't have anything really to offer, like Arkansas and Oklahoma.
No, I know. They're trying to get me to go to. They're trying to get me to go to Georgia right now and build some apartments, and I'm just not excited about it. There's enough work around here. Why do I want to go down, somewhere
Georgia?
4 hours away from my house?
What's in Georgia?
I don't give a crap.
Georgia?
It's 4 hours from my house.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No interest in going.
Yeah, exactly. There's no comparison. No offense to you wonderful people that live in Georgia.
Yeah, well, if I lived a lot closer, my objection isn't the fact that it's Georgia. My objection is the fact that it's 4 hours away.
Exactly.
There's no place that's 4 hours away that I'd look enthusiastically to go to for the next year and a half, which is about typically how long one of my projects last.
Right. That's not going to be fun.
No, we're not doing it.
That's exactly. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to happen. And so,
until I get myself up to the capacity where we can do maybe 10 jobs at a time, and I can just kind of like go this week over here, I can fly out to these places and do a route once or twice a month. Then we'll talk. But we'll talk about expanding the geographic range. But the way it is right now, it'd have to be a really good deal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's we were just in Georgia here last week, and North Carolina, and it is definitely a traffic hell. But
I don't care about that. It's all about the money. You stack the money high enough, and we'll go do it.
Atlanta's.
But traffic and stuff like that, traffic has never moved the needle even a little bit for me, not a little bit. Because there, I can figure out a way to position myself in a way that it's not annoying.
You're a very self-reliant guy like that.
I listen to people. I listen to people bitch about stuff like that.
I bitch like crazy because I'm just a bitcher.
I don't know. I hear people bitch about that stuff all the time, and it feels more like they're just looking for something to bitch about because you didn't know the traffic was sucked in Atlanta. Where the hell have you been?
You're right about that. I was actually trying to go through Atlanta, and the GPS told me this is the shortest route until we had one accident after another accident. After 3 accidents, it says this is still the shortest route. It's still the fastest route.
And you know what? It probably is.
It's a 4-hour wait.
Yeah.
But that's and that's we probably blame it on the lady there who's in charge of Georgia.
Well, if it was me, I wouldn't get a place to live that's on the opposite side of the city from where I got to work.
That's very true.
Because I don't care where you live in Atlanta or where you work in Atlanta, there's some place on the outskirts that's a fairly short trip.
Yeah, Accra is really beautiful. Marietta.
Yeah, lots and lots of places. So these people that sit there and complain about Atlanta traffic, shut up.
Exactly. Okay. So what else is in the news today?
I've been
We've been hammered now in life.
Yeah, well, I've been worrying about my own local elections. I went and voted today, and it looks like unfortunately, it looks like the candidate I was hoping for is not going to win for the state election. Jim Petronas won for Congress, and I couldn't be happier. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yep, he's a good guy.
He's a good friend and a good friend of the family, and he's a good man. I'm glad that he won.
Right, and Randy Fine won over here in District 6, over here in my neck of the woods. I really don't know much about him, don't know much positive or good or bad to say about him, but he's a Republican, and he's a Republican vote, and that's really good for the party and for the agenda. So
I will say this as kind of a final topic because it's getting kind of late. But in this local race, the guy, the opponent for my guy picked a guy named God, what is that dude's name? He's so, I just block him out of my mind because he's so Anthony Pedicini. He is such a despicable person, and who gets sued all the time because he has no compunction about distorting the truth in ways that courts feel like feel like is questionable. So he hasn't been convicted, but I think, in my opinion, it's just a matter of time. And the fact that the Republican Party, it is associated with this guy in any way is just one of my most disappointing things about
it really
the state
is.
party.
Yeah, I mean, and the state party has had some disappointments here, all the way from. Well, I guess the most recent one was their last chairman before Evan Powers, who is running everything now. The last guy,
Christian
Christian
Ziegler.
Ziegler, who was having wonderful sex parties with him and his wife and other
I'll tell you
people,
what, that
and
guy.
it was just all bizarre. The whole thing was weird. But the thing,
I bet that I met that guy when he was an
yeah, I
intern, and
know.
he was creepy, then.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing though is that the party should not be picking winners and losers, nor should they have their apparatus or any tentacle of their group picking the winners and losers. They should let these guys fight it out on their own in the
Yeah.
primary, and just leave the
But they
primary
don't.
alone, period, whatsoever, and don't even touch a single candidate, nor have your bulldog or consultants go work for them and push that agenda through fundraising and everything else. Let these guys be honest.
And the thing is, this guy is he is deep. He is the attack dog for the Gates family,
Yeah,
and all of the people that are supporting him are in the Gates orbit. And I'm not talking about Matt. I'm talking about his daddy Don.
correct.
And everyone that objects to Matt, has no idea how much worse his father is. Now, his father isn't, as far as I know, in all the bizarre sex shit that Matt's in, but or Matt has a reputation for, is probably a
Allegedly,
better
yeah.
way of saying that.
Yeah.
But but his father, one, has spent his entire career covering for Matt, and number two, has is a he
He has an criminal record. I mean, he was arrested 17 times.
well, yeah. I mean, he's that is an interesting that's an interesting point. He in other states, he wasn't arrested here, but it was interesting how he could keep his record in other states from coming in and just casting a huge shadow over his ability to, I don't know, be in charge of one of the largest checkbooks in Florida.
Well, do you not know the judge was his uncle?
Well, there's that too. Well,
We'll talk
like I
about
said,
that, a different story. That's a different day.
well, I'll speculate on that when someone's paying me to speculate on that,
That's very true.
because there's too many things for me to worry about, and despite my personal feelings for it, if nothing's going to happen, if nothing's going to happen, the least you can do is pay me to talk about it, because it's not.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
People, no matter how corrupt you think your politics are, you're probably not. You're probably underestimating it.
Yes. It's far, far worse underneath the covers than anybody really, really realizes.
Unfortunately, and sometimes it's with people that you consider a hero that wind up being the absolute worst.
A hero,
Matt could not have been farther from a hero.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
and his daddy is no better.
I got at least 4 or 5 people were attacking me today for being upset about Matt Gates. I was asking them, do they know who they're talking to? I mean, because you and I are both some of the biggest guys who have picked on him since he's been elected in 2009. Out there, period.
Oh no. I will stop and talk to anyone about Matt and tell them that whatever they've heard is probably true, and probably doesn't cover the depth of it.
Yeah.
Because I can take most people to first-person witnesses of this stuff. Now, whether or not that witness will talk to them, different conversation.
Exactly. Or they're alive anymore.
Or if they're alive. Yeah.
Yeah, a few of them are not anymore. So
I can tell you that a reporter from the Miami Herald, who was trying to convince me that my cousin had been killed by him, but in some way, somehow related to knowledge of the gates. And I told him at the time I thought it was that it was unlikely, and that I was the last one of the, if not the last, one of the last persons to see him, and I don't know how they would have put something like that together. But then she told me, said, well, you're probably right, but an alarming number of politicians in Florida die by driving off a bridge. And that part did get my attention.
Yep.
So I don't know what to think, but I can tell you it puts me permanently on the opposite side of the fence from them.
Exactly. And also, that being said, the guy who won tonight is right in their bed. And
he absolutely is. He has been, well, everyone on his first little fundraising invitation. Everyone on his invitation was a Gates acolyte. So I'm not surprised. I wish I was.
Yes, which I guess the big question is what's going to happen with the BP Triumph Gulf Coast now? Because now Gates is there, and now he has a new state rep primed and everything else to help overlook that BP money that David Bear, the chairman of the Triumph, has not spent yet. And so I think his chairmanship is coming up for renewal. So I don't know if he's going to be renewed as a chair or not, or Nathan Boyle is going to have some big effect.
It depends on how. It depends on how much he's been listening to Daddy Don.
Exactly. We have no idea, but we will find out. But I guess we're going to go ahead and call it quits here for tonight. And it's been a very long, draining week. Hopefully, I did not get beat up by protesters here next week. And it's going to be fun to see how the new term now with a bigger Congress, everything else works. With tomorrow being Liberation Day, we'll find out.
We shall see.
Yeah, have a good evening. And real quick, make sure you subscribe us, follow us, share us. The algorithm right now is a little bit tricky, so we need as much help from you guys as possible. It's actually taking away some of our viewers. Just we don't really know why, and so the algorithm needs to be challenged, and we need your help.
I know exactly right. You start spewing the wrong narrative, and magically you start losing followers, and it's not because your narrative's unpopular. It's because they just magically go away.
It's almost like the voters from 2020, the 10 million voters that just reappeared, and they disappeared in 2024.
Well, you see, exactly. It's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal.
It's right in line with the federal election system. But that being said, like us, share us, subscribe to us, follow us, and tell everybody about us.
Right.
Huh?
Right. We got lots of great stuff coming.
Yeah, have a good evening. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.